Hey, it's time to crank up the truth. I'm Val Selby, and over the decades of working online, I've learned a most important lesson. Mindset owns your business. If procrastination, imposter syndrome, and a lack of focus have been blocking your biz, then I'm here with Val Full Volume, ready to help you see choices that you're making. Get ready to own your personality and use your expertise to create the business of your dreams. Now is the time to make changes and live your best life. So let's get to it. All right, here we are in another week. I'm so happy that you are here and listening. And today I have somebody that I've known for a really long time. I'm not even going to go back. I was going to go back through emails and see when we connected. I'm like, yeah, why? It's for a long time, well over a decade. I have Angela Wills on here, and she's somebody that I have followed back when you had your membership. I mean, it was like one of the memberships that I really loved to be in at that time. It was exactly what I needed. And you were teaching exactly how I needed to learn. So I am excited that you are back in our internet marketing world, and I'm back in your membership. So Angela, thank you for being here, and go ahead and tell my listeners about you right now. What makes you Angela right now and back in our internet marketing world?
Oh, wow. Wow. What a question. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on your podcast. And what makes me Angela right now? I think I'm really like in the moment at this very moment. I'm focused on growth. That's something we kind of quickly mentioned to each other at the beginning of this podcast. But I think over the last couple of years, there's a lot of things that have been going on, and we just reevaluate your life and you look at things and what's important. And to me, having freedom has always been important, but I just kind of looking at myself and getting introspective, if that's the right word. And but who I am overall as a person, I'm a mom. I have a daughter named Ella. She's 8. I have a son, Hayden, who's 20, and he's out on his own, living his own life now. So I've got that perspective of one in the house who I've got another 10 years or so with, and then one who's already out. And that's really an interesting thing to experience as a mom, to kind of see where they are. And so I've always, ever since I had my son, when he was born, my life has been about my kids and my family. It's just super important to me, and it's a super big focus of my life. Try to figure out how to get a hobby in there every now and then. It's fun to do hobbies and crafts with my daughter, playing around with a little bit of watercolor and doing a little bit of clay crafty things. But mostly what I do is teach people how to use the internet to take what they know, their skill sets, and turn it into a business online. I do that, but I focus first on my life with my family, and that's kind of takes up most of my time. And I just, I have my friends and my parents and everybody I want to connect with. Relationships are huge for me. I just want to connect with people. I love talking to people, hearing about them, try to be a better listener, a better person, just growth all around. And it's fun. It's always something else to do, right?
Right.
Never bored.
And there's constantly things to grow, for goodness sakes. It's just when I'm I've done so much good growing and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking to myself, and then all of a sudden I was oh, girl, you were not even yet. Here you go.
Yes. I so hear you. I'm right in the middle of that right now.
Oh man. Yeah. I feel like I'm coming out the other side. So I'm hoping I'm not jinxing that. Right. I'm coming out of some growth right now. It's can we just plateau for a second? Just a second. Let me catch up and figure out what I learned and go from there. I know that one of the reasons I had always been in your community was the fact that you put family first, because I can look back and know that that's something that was always the reason I've stayed home. I mean, I did work odd jobs here and there as I needed to or wanted to, because there were times I needed to get the heck out of the house. And getting a job was just yep, doing this.
Keep you out for a while.
A lot of those jobs, it's as soon as it interfered with my family, I was out. It wasn't a career thing, where staying online has always been this is what I want to do.
Right, right. And I thought I needed a little change, and I kind of bounced around out of this specific training that I do right now, but I came right back like real quick. And I think that, once you find something that you're really invested in, it just kind of
Yeah.
gets in your blood. One of my friends said, "Oh, you're back. It's in your blood."
Yeah. Well,
So,
it's, and I hate to use the word easy, but it is easy because it's just what you do.
mhm.
It's not something that you have to think about. It's not something that you have to go and research a ton. It's like, no, I'm doing this. Follow me.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on and follow me.
And I think that I attracted a lot of people who family is first, because there's certainly a lot of people out there, and a lot of people, I'm not saying that the family's not important, but they're approaching different business from a different point of view. And so I always am like, no, my business doesn't interfere with what I want in my life. And that was from design from the very beginning, because like I started it saying, I want to be home with my son. And so, and I know a lot of people don't start businesses for that reason. Like their
Mhm.
business is like, okay, I want to start a business and make $1 million business. Like that's a whole different pathway, right? So, yeah, I think it drew such an incredible community around me, which I'm so happy to be connected with them still
Yeah.
after so many years.
I know, right? Yeah, it's
Mhm.
like, I was thinking of that as because I'm making a bit of a change. It's not really a change; it's just more of a focus into the JV partnership management. And I start thinking about it, and it's just like, well, you start making a list of contacts, and you're like, these are big people in the internet world, but they're just people that you talk on Facebook or message anytime, or you're on Voxer with them, and all of this. It's like,
Mhm.
I really need to start using, and I'm using in an appropriate manner, not like I'm using them, but I need to start putting these connections together that
Yeah,
I've had.
yeah.
I mean, they're deep connections we have.
That's the thing. There's so many incredible people out there. And when you start building those connections, like that's what I talk about a lot too. In when people are asking about business, you don't realize like how many awesome people you're connected to. And you just kind of have to reach out and see, and not reach out in a way like, oh, what can you do for me? It's
Mhm.
always like there's a way you can work together, and that person that who has a business or a community, or they got something going on, there's a way
Yeah.
for you guys to help each other out.
Yeah.
And that's I think really key,
Yeah.
like to anything like what you're doing now. And like you said, you've got all these contacts, and I think it's a really good practice to
Mhm.
sit down and write out, like you said, you've had like 1,000 people. Like I don't think people think to sit down and write that out. Like I think
Mhm.
you should get pen and paper and just start thinking of everybody you can think of
Mhm.
that
Yeah, because you just don't even think of it. You're just like, yeah, it's just so and so in your head. I mean, not downplaying them, but they're just a friend. They're just somebody that
Yeah,
you
they're
talk to all the
good
time,
friends.
and you don't realize, like you and Kelly just had a blog conversation, which I loved. I was just
Mhm.
like, wow. The whole year I've had this like thought that has gone through my head, and it keeps going through my head, that everything old is new again. And
Right.
I really feel like this year I've seen it over and over and
Right.
over again. Like
It
all of a
was
sudden the platforms are realizing, oh, let's do this new thing. It's like, that's not new.
right. Well, the whole everything old is new again, and that chat with Kelly McCausey we were talking about, and like she interviewed me way back when I quit my job in 2007, and it's kind of like I reemerged into email marketing training. We did this cross blog conversation. I'm going to get on our podcast again, so it's like it is a very much like a throwback to like when I initially was connecting with her about my new business as a virtual assistant.
Yeah.
But now it's just like it's a different thing. But those friendships you have and those people who just want to share your message, I think
Mhm.
that's just super powerful and
Yeah.
like so fun.
Yeah.
It was such a fun thing to do. I don't think I've ever done a cross blog conversation before.
Oh,
I
really?
think that might be the first.
Right. Nice. And I know that your membership came up at just the right time for me as well, because I'm like looking at my Facebook and I'm looking at my social media going, why why am I still invested in this when I'm not getting, I can literally look at my Google Analytics. That's one of the few things I can figure out in my Google Analytics is where's my traffic coming from? It's like, why am I putting any effort or any money, if I'm outsourcing some of it, into 15 people a month coming to my website when I can send an email out and probably get 15 replies that I'm going to have a personal conversation in that email? I'm like, it took me a while, I've got to say.
Well, that's a really good reality check to, look at your stats. Where are people coming from? So if social media is bringing you 15 or 50 or 100 people a month, but if you like how I teach email, it's like consistently send an email maybe once a day, maybe 5 times a week, whatever, but like 5 times a week. So that's 20 emails a month. And the amount of clicks you could get out of that, like if you got an engaged audience and a growing list, just is way more. So you want to look at those. Yeah, that's a really good way to compare and see, okay, where's my time worth?
Yeah.
That's one of the things I talk about and I think about. Like I have this set of core messages, and one is protect your time fiercely. And I just want to do that for myself. Like my son is 20, and Val, you have older kids as well. Like my son is 20 and I'm like, okay, like it's going to go by with Ella. She's 8, but she'll be 20 soon. Like she'll be 20 tomorrow. So, and not just with her, like my whole, me as a person, I want to protect all my time. And like, that's why when I have got people on my email list, I really respect the time they're spending to open those emails, and I treat it as payment. It's more valuable than money, like their time. Right. So like, not to get all somber.
No. It's a big mindset change of why you're sending out the email. And I know it's taken me a little bit. I feel like it's taken me a little bit to have like this mental switch of I'm emailing. And I know I've always tried to write the emails to the one person. I'm writing to a person, not to my list. But I really feel like this year my connection just flipped in my head of I'm here to communicate because these people want to communicate with me. Like they're asking for it.
Yeah. That's so key because like I did a talk with people who aren't too familiar with emailing a lot, because there's a lot of people out there who will absolutely tell you like email once a month, like sell something once a month, sell something once a month, and maybe send an email once a week. And so they're really not for me telling them you could send emails 5 days a week. So I had that experience of people kind of really being resistant to that. And it's really interesting because they're saying I won't spam my people. I won't spam my people with emails. But you can have a list of people who think it's spam because they're not used to it. They didn't ask for it. They don't want it. You can also have a list of people who say, yes, tell me all the things, like tell me everything. Like I need to know right now, today. And so if you send them once a day, you might be like, they're still waiting. Like, no, can you send me a whole book? But I don't have time to read it. So maybe break it up. And then we can do a bunch of emails. Right. So those are the people who are like really eager to get your emails. And like you said, they want to hear from you. You're serving them. And like, but with total respect at the same time for their time. But they're choosing. They're choosing to open those emails. They want to spend that time. At the same time, you're not going to be flippant about it. Like, oh, hey, read this. Like you really have to think about, okay, what do I have to help people? And I think that comes down to like, I know so many people, and you included, who have so much to offer people that could help their lives. And like, we never know what one little thing, it could be one little sentence that could change someone's trajectory of their life and like help them in some way that's super important to them. And it's not up to us to decide what it is. It's just up to us to like do our best, right? Like get it out there.
Yeah. And we can't build communities if we are emailing once a month. That's not a community. I actually feel if you're emailing once a month, you are spamming because they don't know who you are.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way, but wow.
Isn't
like
it true though? Yeah. That just like popped into my head. It's like,
that kind of blew my mind.
It's like, because if you are, they don't know who you are at all. So they're going to assume. So yeah, I know. Write that down. I don't have to write that down.
Say that, I'm going to have to attribute it to you because that's really smart, because it's true. It's completely true. Because if I get on someone's list and they even email once a week, and I don't like know who they are most of the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe I missed an email, so I signed up, and then maybe 2 or 3 weeks have gone by, and I don't remember their name. I don't remember what their business or
Hmm.
website was, especially if like I haven't, like maybe I just kind of randomly came upon it and signed up real quick. I might not
Yeah.
remember who they are at all,
Yeah.
and then like they just. Yeah, it's like I'm like, who are you? And sometimes I think it might be spam, but maybe I did sign up for it, but I don't
Right.
remember. Yeah,
Right.
that's a really good point.
And I think I researched and saw like, oh gosh, months ago that back in the day, it used to be like 7 contacts. It would take 7 contacts before somebody actually
Mhm.
started getting into the know, like, trust and all of that. But I think I read that it's up to like 12 or 14
Yeah.
because there's so much out there. So, I mean, anybody listening, if you're listening and you're only emailing once a week or once a month, 12 to 14 months or 12 to
Mhm.
14 weeks, how
Yeah.
in the world are you ever going to build a business or a community
Yeah,
in that
imagine if
way?
you only got one sale every 12, 13 weeks. That's actually the exact thing. I did that math and I kind of mentioned this to my community a bunch of times. Like when I'm trying to convince them,
Mhm.
this is why I decided to send an email every day because I did that math. Because I think I was following someone who emailed every day and he said he did that math.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do that too because like 365 days, how often, at the time it was 7 as well. And like you said, it's more than that. But I was thinking even 7 being generous,
Yeah.
like how many sales if I had like one person on my list, like we're looking at one person on your list for a year, it's gonna take, a lot like 7 emails or 12, like you said.
Yeah.
But I did that math, like it just was so like obvious if I email more often, with
Mhm.
having the, assumption that they're engaged, they're reading,
Mhm.
they're excited about everything. And then I get way more sales. It just
Yeah.
like it was so logical, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
so logical at that
And
point.
and I wonder because you've been doing the daily emails for way longer. I'm trying to get to there. I want to be there, but obviously it's not a priority or it would be happening.
Mhm.
Uh, but I know the more I email, the better my open rates are getting.
Yes. I think when you have services too, like you're going to have probably less times where you're emailing every day. I don't know.
Hmm.
But I feel like when I was a virtual assistant, I was building my list. And it was like kind of like, not every day, but I guess that was back in 2006 or so. So I feel like around 2007 or 2008, I started more like doing the daily emails. But like when I
Hmm.
was in the services, I'm like splitting my attention, but definitely focusing on it because
Yeah.
I did it that the people I was talking to, who I mentioned earlier, were virtual assistants. So they're not always used to getting on lists where people are emailing every day, or they're not used to the idea of doing it for themselves. But I was like,
Hmm.
even if you're in services, getting that list going, even if you're not emailing every day, but like a couple of times a week, 2 or 3 times a week, that's so valuable.
Hmm.
They're still going to remember you, and you've got
Yeah.
so much to share with them too, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
it's hard when you're doing services. We were just talking right before, and that's the reason I'm like in this season right this second of going, "Blah!" Is because I
right.
just
It's
had
busy
a
times.
bundle launch. Our bundle bash launch is on Friday, and then I've got a giant giveaway that I'm working on all at the same time, and I take
Right.
full ownership of all the deadlines.
Yes.
But
Yep.
still, as a services person, you're trying to get your own stuff in there. And
Mhm.
and even right this minute, I can tell everybody my stuff is getting pushed and pushed
Mhm.
and pushed. And I've done that before. It's a thing.
It is. It's a balance because I remember that too. And people would say, book yourself as a client.
Yeah.
That's like one of the common things people say, but I never did that.
Yeah.
I think I work best on like some solid deadlines to give myself. Like so if I'm like in a services business, but I want to do my own work, I've got to give myself, okay, like I remember one time I was still in the VA business and I wanted to buy a new car. So I decided I was going to do a telesummit and I had hardly any lists, but I had a hard deadline right there, right? So then I was like a client of
Yeah.
my own client. So I'm
Yep.
like, okay, like people are depending on me. I've like got like 30 people recruited to speak and like so they're all depending on me. So I really
Yeah.
have to pile the pressure on myself. Maybe you don't have to do that. And not everybody needs to do that because you have to stand up to that pressure too.
Right.
You put it on. So like put on
Yeah.
your I never say this, but put on your big girl panties if you're going to do stuff like that. But, you gotta really, what's the word? Stand up to the challenge.
Yeah.
What's the word? Rise up to the challenge.
Rise up to the challenge. Yeah. That sounds,
you give yourself.
That sounds like a fit center. I know recently I've been talking to quite a few since I have been in the service industry again so much. I've been talking to my service industry people that are helping me and working on them getting the lists and having that deadline of, okay, well then let's get you into this bundle. Let's get you into this event so that you're working on that product to get in there, or that opt-in finally will get done. And yes, it's 6 weeks out, but we know that, some weeks you're going to have 5 minutes and you don't even want to think about it. So let's put it out there.
I operate on deadlines. That's just how I operate. I think certain people can operate by just moving through a plan and moving through a process, but it's just not how my brain works. Yeah. So I need the deadlines. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. This is driven me in my whole business.
Yeah.
Give me a deadline, or I give myself a deadline. Nobody really gives me any deadlines. That's the whole freedom thing, right? I want my own deadline. So
exactly.
I give myself a deadline and then I can meet it. I can work it out.
But that's the great thing though, is you can take your deadline and move it around what's going on in your family. Mm-hmm. If there's events coming on or you want to head out of town, or, something's going on that you're going to want to take a long weekend, not to put your deadline. Well, we know not to do this. We sometimes do put your deadline on Monday when you're going to be out of town for a 3-day weekend or something.
I have done that. I've actually done it recently. Yep. So we forget. But the whole thing is, your community will hopefully understand. And I'm I'm not here. Sorry. But, I try to give them warning and think ahead, but sometimes I completely forget. So now you have to relearn these things, right? Because you know them and then you forget them. Because I started doing classes on Mondays, and then I thought, okay, next time I'm doing Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
Because Fridays can also be a holiday, and they often are. So I'm put it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I ended up actually putting one on Thanksgiving. But I'm I can't avoid everything. I know Thanksgiving's a big deal, but I'm just going to keep it right there. And hopefully, Thanksgiving people can catch up later, or, do the work on their own sort of thing.
You know what I have found about scheduling on random holidays, even because my husband's a firefighter, but now he's working days in the office. He's an office jockey as an investigator. But previously I wouldn't even think about it because he was on shift and it would be a holiday. And there were times where I made some crazy great connections in classes because they didn't have anything going on as well.
Right.
So I think that's one of the things with the lifestyle freedom that you love so much is if I want to have a Christmas Day class, I can do that. And the right people are going to show up.
That's so true. You never know who you're helping with that. They're okay, well, I got nothing to do on Christmas. It's nice to go, chat with like-minded people. Mm-hmm. It could be a blessing to some really cool people who need it. So
and not be alone.
Yeah.
You just never know. You never know. And I learned to just forget it. It's if it works for me and I'm going to have the energy, then it's going to be good for everybody in my community.
And there's so much you can do in a business. When I can't even remember if I did this during the pandemic, but I think most years recently I've been on webinars because I tend to love the connection of webinars. But when Ella was born, there was a couple of years where I did not get on live at all. So my deadlines weren't showing up for being in person. The deadlines were I had a membership and every month they got a download, right? So it doesn't, there's always so many ways to give yourself a deadline to complete your work and make it fit your life. That's what I love about it. I was able to just adapt. And that's talking about adapt. I feel there's a lot come up lately with people I'm talking to. I'm just completely segue out of that conversation.
Go for it. Yeah. Nope, go for it.
Adapting is another huge thing that entrepreneurs, I think, I just feel we maybe forget, or some people are surprised by it, but there's a lot of adapting to do, and it never really stops. So if I could just FYI anybody who's preparing to continue to move on in this business, in any business, I think, but like especially online, like the internet is changing. It's changed
Yeah.
so much. It keeps changing, and then it keeps staying the same because I can keep doing email, but I still have to adapt tons of things, even though my email is consistent. Like there's so many things I've had to adapt over the years. So
Mhm.
I think that just like is key.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked about it just in a couple of podcast episodes ago that did come up, because sometimes I'll find that I'm just like, I'm stuck. I'm stuck in, this is what I do, and I have to keep doing it, and forever and ever and ever. Amen. And it's funny because it's like, that's not what I would tell a client. That's not what I would tell anybody else. But there's times where I need somebody else to come in and, like, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you shift to this? Why don't you take this that you told me you learned and go with that? And it's like, I need that outside person to be like, stop being stuck.
Yeah, I think that is really good. And I think that's what community is good for too. Like because when you get in community, people are kind of shy, but then like if you start to make connections with certain people, and then you got more people to talk to if you don't already. But if you do already, you've got like potentially coaches, or even like sometimes your clients will call you out on stuff and say, hey, I think now, like I sent out an email today because I think now is such a good time to look at adapting, because a lot of people are saying sales are down and stuff because, people are holding on to more money, and it's like, okay, well, what do we need to think of? How do we need to adapt to the current situation and how people are spending their money and using their money? I thought that was a really important message to kind of speak about today.
Yeah, I read your email this morning and I loved it because you were not like feeding into the fear. And I've been opening emails that are so fear-based. We can look through history and we can see that there's plenty of businesses through any recessions, even the Great Depression. There were businesses that came out thriving from any of those. So adapting is key, and not falling into the woe is me trap, which is just like so easy when people are sending those icky emails.
Yeah, I know. I put it right at the top because I'm like, I don't want you to buy my thing because you're afraid. I don't want you to have more fear either. Like, didn't say that part, but I said, don't buy because you're afraid. Like, just don't do that. But I thought it was good to address it because I have this unique situation right now because I'm growing my business when a lot of my friends are saying their sales are dipping. But that's not because I'm magical or special. It's just because I happen to start in April and I'm ramping up while, there is obviously people out there interested in buying my products, and there's people out there interested in buying my friends' products, but they were at like a higher level of sales as I was kind of starting from low going up, right? So I've got this perspective that like business is growing, while other people might be saying business is starting to drop. And so that gives me a nice like positive outlook to start with.
It's a definite mindset shift that has to get made. Because they need to get on that same thing. Okay, well, anytime you're in business, anytime there's going to be downtimes, because there's going to be times that we have to change. Because like we were talking before we were recording, we change.
Yeah.
So when we're changing, our business is changing, but we need it to grow with us.
And I see this time like just the same as any other. Like there's so many times. Like I broke my ankle. I had my daughter, which was awesome. Like there was, a pandemic.
Yeah,
that thing. Like there's like all these things that like kind of life happens. And I've said that so many times, like as much as you can prepare before life happens, right? Like, so now life's going to happen again in a little while. It's coming up again because it always does. Like things always come up.
Yeah.
My parents are aging. Like that's kind of one thing that's a life happening that I know is inevitable.
Yeah.
And so you have to like think about that and think about how does business continue? How do things need to be adapted? And I think that this time in our lives is not too different from that. So what I'm doing is ramping up my business, but maybe you'll ramp up a little branch that you see, like if you start experimenting and you see, okay, well, people need this instead of that, and let's see that ramp up. And that's exciting. And you find your motivation in that kind of process as well.
Yeah. And is that a segue? Because you do have a new project that's like a branch. Did you want to talk about that at all? Or do you want to
I'll talk about any projects. I mean, they're all things that I am like, if I kind of, before I go into one project, I think you're talking about the membership one, right? I got a bunch of
well, no, you wrote down that you've got Project Happy Mom.
Oh, that one is not like, it's not really ready, but
okay.
like I did spill the name.
But that's a branch. So that's what you're talking about. Like find something and check it out. See where it goes.
100%. That is actually a great example of what I'm talking about. Like for a long time and for a lot of my business, I kind of like stayed in my lane almost. Like it's just like, okay, you can sell around. Well, I'll backtrack on that because I also sold like indoor gardens. So I didn't stay in my lane like completely.
No, you jumped off of your lane. Like you went on a whole new highway.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe I don't stay in my lane at all.
Well, you did like before. Yeah, myself. that was just different.
Yeah, I went to a different highway on that one. And I was like, okay, but I better come back and like get back on this highway. And teaching people online marketing is the highway I'm talking about. Like, then I'm back in this sphere of teaching people how to take what they know and turn it into a business. And so I've been doing things like, how to make a class and sell it, how to send emails, obviously, like I have an email membership, I have an email course. So I've been teaching all around, like how to make sales, how to build your list with bundles, things like that. Right. And then I was just like, I have some mentors who I really love. Like, I call them mentors, but people I watch YouTube videos of. I don't know why I said mentor.
They might not know that you're their mentor.
They don't know me too well. Well, the one guy is George Cow. I guess, you like him, and I like marketing for hippies. So I've been kind of following them and watching a bunch of their videos.
Is that Andrew? Marketing for hippies?
Marketing for hippies. I'm totally blanking on his name.
Okay,
right
that's all right.
Tad.
Tad. Okay,
Hargrave. Yeah. I'm watching.
I'm like, he's on my list. I contacted him.
Yeah. But George was saying about how, if you talk about your life, and this is what I do, I talk about my life, I talk about my family, I talk about all of these things. And he's like, people will buy from you a product that doesn't have to be exactly the same. Like it could be about watercolor, right? Like it could be because like, okay, watercolor relaxes me. If business owners were stressed, like I can tie anything to anything, but I haven't played too far out of that range, like to tie it all into the same business. But Project Happy Mom is where I'm like, okay, I'm really needing to like focus on a lot of things in my life. And like, this is where I kind of mentioned to you, I'm like having some growth and I'm like thinking about my own behaviors and I'm thinking about like what I need to do, like wellness and like all the common things. But I just thought, there's like, I've already attracted around me this group of people who are, a lot of them are moms, and I'm not trying to exclude anybody, but Project Happy Mom is just this thing I'm thinking of where I think we all need it right now. Like moms were put under a lot of strain. We, a lot of us got to our breaking points and we might be still there or like trying to avoid it or whatever. And I just felt like I'm going to test this out. That's the point. That's the point you were asking me about, is like testing out things. And I think testing them out and like trying new things. So I have been trying different models of like, I've been doing classes, I've been doing bigger courses, I've been doing a membership. So I didn't just come back into this industry and say, okay, going to start a membership, straight, exactly what I'm going to do. I could do that, but I wanted to test the waters. I wanted to check things out. And so that was one method. And I kind of feel like I've got a good rhythm down there. Yeah. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to test like this other idea, this Project Happy Mom. Yeah. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to seeing it. And I do want to catch one thing. I don't know, listening, if you caught it, you almost apologized because you were going to niche down. And so I just want to touch on that really quick, because if you're listening, it doesn't matter how long we've all been in here, we all still freaking worry about upsetting or excluding somebody. We do. We're like, oh my gosh. Especially, I almost think sometimes it gets worse as we've been around the block, because it's just like, I want to help everyone. And it's like, we know that doesn't work because we've all tried it.
When I say that, I know exactly what part I said that, where you said I almost apologized. I'm thinking of the people who are already in my community who I want to come with me. But, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but they will know me enough that they don't even need my permission. That's why you can still niche down.
Yeah.
And moms can still, like, moms will come in, but so will non-moms.
Exactly.
They don't feel excluded. You don't have to say you're not excluded. They'll just come in anyway and they'll be like, hey, I'm not a mom. But it's okay, right?
Yeah.
They won't even necessarily ask. They'll just come in and they'll be welcome, and then that'll be fine.
And that right there is exactly what I try and tell my clients about target marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You do need to get targeted because you have to know who you're talking to. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to attract other people. I mean, I'm a mom. I don't have kids at home. I know that was a season that I was blessed not to have to go through with the pandemic. I mean, I have been so thankful. I don't know how any mom did that.
What's the thing?
So much. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get bits and pieces because we're still living busy lives, from your project. It doesn't mean that I'm not, because I am in your community, I wouldn't come and check it out and see if it's for me. And if it's not, then I'm out. If I'm getting what I need from it, then I stay. It doesn't mean that we're excluding people. It just means that it's not who we are directly trying to grab.
So true. It didn't occur to me that, you don't have little kids. So I was just thinking your mom, right? Yeah. Like you're saying, but you do have older kids now, right? Yeah. So you're excited about it. Like, so you're proving your own point.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You will be excited about that project to see what it is at least.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is yet.
Right. You just know it's going to happen. Right? Exactly. Grow the community. Grow the community. Yeah. Look, I mean, a lot of the times projects like that, I know I've done those projects because they were things that I needed. That's how your Bold Life came to be. I almost feel like you're like a few steps back where I was like pre-pandemic about 5 years ago.
Nice.
We had some major deaths in the family and going through that and trying to just figure out where in the world I fit in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So your Bold Life became that because I needed to talk to midlife women. I needed to talk to the empty nesters. All of those things that I needed, I just started sharing.
100%. That's exactly. I was thinking, I need this. So might as well bring some people along with me. Yeah. And I don't know of any group right now that's like that I can immediately connect with that's doing this. So, okay. I'll step up and lead it, but almost not really lead it because I want this to be a community effort. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because a while ago, someone was asking me about participating in a bundle and he was reading my site and he said, I have a mom bundle. Do you want to join that? And it's like, I have avoided like classifying myself as helping moms in business, like so hard.
I think we have trauma from Wham Life.
Does anyone use that term anymore?
No, it's like triggering.
Right.
I'm not a Wham.
Right.
Which is just work at home mom for so many of you that probably have no idea.
Right.
But it ended up having like this giant stigma and we kept ourselves small. Yes.
Not serious in business. Like you're just a mom. Like
it's a hobby.
Yeah. It's just a thing you're trying. You're not gonna be successful. Like not that people said that directly, but it's like kind of almost like the feeling you got from the whole outside of it. By the end,
we were down that. So you were trying to stay out of the mom specific.
Yeah, I think so. But I think, marketing. A lot of people who are drawn into what I'm doing, obviously I'm talking about my family all the time. Anyone who's not interested in talking about family is not going to be interested in reading my emails. So the people who are interested are probably moms and dads and family oriented type of people. So so I'm already attracting it, but I just never really so it's a whole thought process, right? Do I want to talk to moms? I already do.
Right.
Do I want to be more defined about it? And the Project Happy Mom is obviously drawing a definition of who I'm speaking to, like you said, the target.
Exactly.
Target market is moms.
And I know that one of the main reasons so many of us were, and I've got a lot of contacts from Angela's first membership that I'm still really close to because we were all in that first membership. And hopefully I didn't just lose my brain on that one. But I lost my brain on that one. So we're just going to leave that.
No worries.
Gosh darn it. Oh, because we follow you because you do share, because
Right.
you're showing what you're doing versus teaching at us.
Yeah, I can't handle being taught just like with no context.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I do it that way. Like
Yeah.
I'm on some people's lists and they're just telling me stuff. And I'm like, I don't care about this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm not excited about this stuff. I need to know why you care.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why I'm always like, okay, this is me, this is my life. And it's like first time business. So,
Mm-hmm.
so we're just talking about my life. And some people are uncomfortable with that because it's like, who cares about my life?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I feel like that's what some people think when I say, just write about your own experiences, write about what you're doing, how you're learning, how you're growing.
Mm-hmm.
And then people might think, well, nobody cares about my life, but they do because they take that information in so much better than if you just dictate like information to them. Like
Yeah.
who wants to sit in a lecture?
Yeah.
You have to try to keep your eyes open like you're in school, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it relates. They might not necessarily be really invested in your life, but what they're doing is taking the pieces of that and applying it to them. So they're looking at your life with their interest in mind. And that's what we all do. And it's very natural and normal. So if you're sharing, it's like helpful to them to hear about you.
Yeah. And I know one of the great things that you've always done too is, I mean, you're just honest, period. You are honest. And that's wonderful, by the way. I'm definitely not saying that's a bad thing. I love that. So when you've tried things, you've shared what worked or didn't work, and you've never been one to tell us, well, this didn't work, so it's not going to work for you either.
Right.
You know, kind of thing. You've always just been, you know what, I tried this, it didn't work for me. You know, maybe it still works for you. It's still a thing. I know it works for other people. But you've shared the things that worked and when it didn't quite work or flopped even.
Yeah, and I think that the possibilities are endless, right? Of the combinations of things that you could do. So it's really just take your inspiration, take your ideas. Lately, I have, I followed another person. I took her course, Elizabeth Goddard. Never know how to say her last name.
Yeah.
But in her course, she says, take what you want and apply it to your business. Like she put that like in front. And I think that's so key. And that's what I've tried to make sure is a message I always say, like, don't, like, there's so many business out there trying to tell you copy exactly. And I just think that's an impossible assignment, I guess.
It is impossible because I've tried it so many times. Over the years, I was looking for the perfect system. There's obviously, that's what I'm missing, the perfect system. And yeah, the perfect system for me does not exist in somebody else's stuff.
Mm-hmm. Because we're all so different. Like nobody understands any one individual. Mm-hmm. And it would be, I feel like that's also, I don't like to talk about things that are impossible too much because I like to keep it positive. But I also think we are super, super complex. How can I sit here and say, Val, this is exactly what you should do? And like talk about butterfly effect. One little thing triggers all kinds of little things. And I can't be like, am I a genius? Like a super magical genius who can predict everything that would possibly happen in your life and how you should do that? Like, I just think we are the best people to know about ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. Like we are our own experts. And this is like what I got from another person I worked with. And I'm like dropping people's names because I don't credit people. But Jonathan, and I forget his last name, so I can't fully credit him. No. But a nutrition coach I worked with, he would say, like, he's not going to just come in and tell me, like, we're going to work together because I know myself better than he knows me. Of course I do. Mm-hmm. And he knows what he knows. And we're going to cooperate, collaborate. We're going to work together to, like, he's bringing his knowledge. I'm bringing my knowledge of myself. And he's going to help me in that way. Yeah. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And that's the best thing to be looking for I feel in a coach or a mentor or, somebody that you're working with, because when we're coming in as a coach, we don't, if I was coming in to coach you, there's times that you don't remember the things I mean, we forget so much of the stuff that we know that, it takes that collab and working together so that we can even figure out how to get to certain parts. It's like, well, of course I know how to do that. I've done that for 25 years. So you don't think of it. It's like, well, lady, that's what you should be talking about.
Right. And that's why candid conversations are so good too, because if you forget that this is like really important, but you're up Like so many times, like a little thing will come out
Yeah.
that is so key to somebody, but you didn't even think it's that important to share. So
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, I think. And
yeah, I think that's one of the things that I miss so much about going to live events is those conversations that are not actually during the event that you're having with people, and you're just talking and something pops out of your mouth. And since they're in the entrepreneurial world, they're like, what? Why aren't you doing that? Or like, I don't know.
It's just like you're just having a chat, and then they're like, they catch something, or then it can be the opposite. Like you're just listening into whatever they're saying, and then they say something, and you're like, wait, you do that? Oh, why do you do that? Why is that important? And then you're like, oh, okay.
You're like, oh, I know how to do all of that, or I know how to do all of that, and you need that. Do other people need that?
Yeah. Oh, I hope live events start coming back kind of big time.
Let's throw that out there because I am ready to start scheduling. Believe me.
I would like to go some places. Yeah.
I am definitely ready. And especially in Florida, all of our Florida friends that Angela and I both have, it's time. We need to hit Florida again.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I know that we could talk forever, Angela. It's so good catching up with you. Is there anything that you would love to leave my listeners with?
Oh gosh, I just think it's so important, like we already discussed, to be who you are and to not keep seeking like a perfect system, to stand strong in like your confidence that you can help people. You're not showing up with zero skills, guaranteed. Like you've got skills already. But if you don't feel like any of your current skills are enough to do a class, start a membership, create a course, if you don't feel like you're there yet, like a good 3 to 6 months of some like dedicated focus on something that will be helpful to other people. So kind of seek that out. Like what will be really helpful to you is probably a place to start. Like what will be really helpful to me? What do I need right now? Like right now I need Project Happy Mom.
Exactly.
Project Happy Mom. Yeah, that's what I called it. Yeah. So, like something like that. That's just me kind of looking towards an idea. I'm taking people along with me. So I know enough that I'm going to be like, okay, guys, these are the things that I want to focus on. Let's all do it together. If you're not at that point, you could even just do it on your own for 3 to 6 months and learn something really good. Like WordPress is like a thing that comes to mind. Like learn WordPress for 3 to 6 months. And then you could serve people as a VA or, make websites for people. You could teach people WordPress. Suddenly you've got a skill. You can teach online. You've got a business you can start. And, it's about connecting with people. The 3 things I say you need are an offer, somebody to sell it to, and a way to take their payment. Simplest form of building an online business. Everything else is extras. It's like if you have the connection with someone who wants your offer and you give them a way to pay, you're in business. So I would say start simple, keep growing, keep serving people, be confident. And that's a lot of messages in one little last message. But
no, that's wrapping up on everything that we talked about. So that's perfect.
Kind of put a bow on everything we said today. And then that's my message. Like just keep going out there and know that you have lots of value to share.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, Angela. I appreciate you being here today. Your message is exactly what my listeners are here to hear. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. And thanks so much for having me. It's so fun. Yeah. Love chatting. I love connecting and sharing. And thank you everybody who's listening. As I said, your time is very valuable. It's our most valuable resource as far as I'm concerned. So I appreciate you being here to listen.
Yeah. And I will have all of Angela's information, and there's probably going to be a whole ton of links because we talked a lot about a lot of people. So that's all going to be in the show notes. Believe me, we'll point you right in the direction to get with Angela, because I know if you just resonated with her, you're going to want to get in her membership and be around her even more. So thanks again, Angela, and everybody else. I will talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Val Full Volume. If you are done spinning in circles and procrastinating, check out my quick workshop, 14 Biz Actions. Action creates change. Now go out there and create the biz of your dreams.